On this podcast, we've talked to veterans in business school, some building startups, and others working at Fortune 100 companies. But we've yet to talk to anyone doing all of those things at the same time. Today, we're not just speaking with one guy doing all that, we've got two. Hunter Mancini and Andy Fleischer served together in the 2nd Ranger Battalion and are now charting unique but similar paths through business school, the startup world, and employment after service. This conversation provides a complete buffet of options for someone transitioning out of the military to consider. From business school to manufacturing and innovatively designed running belt, we cover a ton of ground talking with these guys. So thanks for joining us for this episode with Hunter and Andy. Most people you talk to when transitioning out of the military have never actually transitioned out themselves. You're probably getting a bunch of opinions from people who plan on staying in until retirement and have no idea how to actually show empathy for your situation. This podcast is about providing fresh perspectives and a front row seat for conversations with successful veterans doing big things after leaving the military. I wanted to start this one with a story. And this is a personal story, mostly about Hunter, because he and I go back to our time in Ranger Regiment. But so day one of RASP, the Ranger Assessment Selection Phase, to get into the Ranger Regiment, we start our physical fitness test. This is like end of January in Columbus, Georgia, which most people don't realize actually gets pretty cold. So it's like probably high 20s. We're about to run our 5 mile for the fitness test. And one of our buddies, Mike, he and I take off. We feel like we're doing pretty well on the fitness test. Of course, we had taken off all of our beanie, our jacket, our sweatpants and everything. So we're running just in like summer PTs. And he and I finished kind of neck and neck at neck 2 and 3, like second in the class. We're like, who finished ahead of us? We never saw a number 1. Like we thought we were doing pretty well, but we never saw who was in first place. Well, we finished, and over sitting on the bleachers, like not even sweating, still in his sweats and his beanie, was Hunter. And he had finished the whole thing faster than us in his full sweatsuit and didn't even seem to be sweating or, in any way fatigued from the event. So that's just my day one experience with Hunter to give you a snapshot into who this guy is.
That's high praise.
Yeah.
That's high praise. Anybody beating Griffin in a race.
Yeah, that's funny because I remember that 5 mile run specifically, actually, and that I was catching so much crap from the rest of the class and the bus driver, albeit for continuing to wear my beanie, gloves, and sweatsuit for it. Even though, to your point, yeah, it was like low 30s. It was freezing. But yeah, that was a good 5 mile.
Everybody was stripped down, and then Hunter at the start line was still fully clothed, like ready for the Arctic. Yet he proved everyone wrong.
Yeah, Griffin, you might beat me now. I'm actually having a meniscus repair surgery on Thursday of this week, so I'm going to be out of the fight for a few months.
Oh man, so there's hope that people can keep up now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, well, actually, Andy here on the call, he's consistently beat me in anything speed related, and that's actually a critical piece of like our partnership story, is that we've always been tied together by running, as maybe we'll get into, and obviously the running belt itself. But pretty much from day one, since we started running, we started doing that 7 or 10 mile loop around Bagram Airfield. And then ever since then, we've been constantly involved in train ups for marathons or ultra marathons for like the last, I don't know, Andy, what has it been, like 5 or 6 years now, on and off that whole period. Yeah.
It has, but Griffin, if it makes you feel better, it wasn't just my day one with him that he beat me. It took up until a couple months into that deployment to get close.
I'll take that for what it's worth, but I'd love to start, Andy, with your kind of background. You can start with, pre-military or military experience, and then a little bit about your transition and what you're up to now. Not to summarize your life in 5 minutes, but if you could just give a high level overview.
Yeah, absolutely, Griffin. And thanks to you and Jack for having us here. We love what you're doing. It's an incredible opportunity to do this. I grew up in Maryland and then went south to the University of Georgia for school. So go Dogs. It's coming up to be a good end of the football season here, but had a great experience there. Did ROTC all 4 years and then commissioned out of UGA to be an infantry officer and went south to Fort Benning immediately after school to then start my Army career. Was in for 6 years total. And during those 6 years, I spent time at Fort Hood with 3CR, then moved to 2nd Ranger Battalion out in Washington, moved to the Captain's Career Course at Fort Benning, and then finished out my time at Fort Carson in Colorado. During that time, was very fortunate to be with phenomenal soldiers in each of those units. Deployed 3 times, once to Iraq, once to Afghanistan, and once to Syria, with those 2 latter ones being with 2nd Ranger Battalion. Then out of Fort Carson, was finishing up my time and decided that it was the right time to pursue a different opportunity, and transitioned out to then attend the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania. So that's where I'm at now. I'm a year and a half into the 2-year program, and I am looking forward to this last semester coming up. Following this, I'll be moving out to Seattle to go work for Amazon. And then this past summer, did an internship in New York City at a strategy consulting firm. But it's been a wild ride. And I think that most of that experience and what I'm doing today was set up by my time in the Army. So looking forward to diving into it with you all today.
Awesome. And we'll double click on a few of those areas, but Hunter, I'd like to give your background as well.
Yeah, certainly. So I grew up in Eastern Pennsylvania and then attended United States Military Academy at West Point, graduated in 2016, and then commissioned an infantry officer, was a PL at Fort Carson, where I did a 9-monther to Afghanistan with them, and then met Andy at the 2nd Ranger Battalion and did 2 subsequent deployments to Afghanistan with them as well. I was a battle captain and specialty section platoon leader for the unmanned systems section, like drones and RC cars, and also the K9 section. And then I was a strike force platoon leader as well on the 2nd deployment with them. And similar timeline to Andy, attended captain's career course and then worked on staff for about a year and a half at Fort Campbell in Bastogne, where I transitioned out due to starting a family. Was the right time, state of current affairs, really a lot of different reasons coming together at the same time. That unit was getting ready to go to Poland. We're having our first kid. We always knew that we wanted to start a family outside of the military, wanted to prioritize our families, which actually live about an hour and a half away from each other over here in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, which is conveniently where I'm now working for Johnson & Johnson, finishing up their military veteran leadership development program, and also doing my MBA part-time online from the University of Michigan Ross School of Business, and then a couple other side ventures, as we'll talk about as well.
Just a couple glass balls in the air. That's it.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. It's a busy time of life right now, but we're blessed to have all these opportunities in front of us and happy to try to, I feel like it's always better to be in a position biting off more than you can chew and, learning instead of trying to like space. I feel like all these things are like, people talk about, well, when's the best time to like have a kid? When's the best time to start a business? There is no best time. When's the best time to get out of the Army? There is no best time. You just got to do it when it feels right, and you're going to figure it out along the way. So we're just figuring out a lot of things right now.
You're preaching to the choir there.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're doing a lot too, but it's good advice to people because sometimes they take that idea of like, when should I get out? Let's make sure it's the perfect time. And oftentimes the overanalysis is actually crippling, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Once you make that decision and you put your full force effort towards the transition, you're going to be just fine and it's going to end well. So okay, that's it. Yeah, like I said, I'm like listening, like, yeah, I'm also doing too much.
Yeah, my wife tells me all the time, don't worry.
Right.
That's what they're there for.
The worst time for our wives too is if you get Hunter and I in a room together. They have no idea which new venture is going to come out, if it's our current ventures or if we're now planning a trip or a marathon or a new business venture.
Sounds just like me and Jack. I think if we live, thankfully we have the geographic distance. He's in Hawaii. I'm on the East Coast. So it's like, we can't get in the same room very often. So we and our wives are fortunate in that regard. But if we were to be in the same room, and even when we get in the same Zoom room, you never know what's going to result from it. So we have to limit those interactions, or at least taper them with reality. But I think an interesting kind of commonality between both of you guys is I know, Andy, you're starting an Amazon kind of military leadership development program, or I don't know if that's the right phrasing for it, but can you guys talk, maybe we can start with Amazon and then go to Johnson & Johnson with you, Hunter, but talk about those programs specifically. And Andy, I don't expect you to be a subject matter expert having not started it yet, but talk about the kind of mind space going into those and who those might be a fit for.
Absolutely. So it's interesting. Amazon has a phenomenal military backing and multiple programs for coming straight out of the military. And we can talk, they're hiring our heroes and a CSP type route as well. I'm doing their MBA leadership development program. And so being hired for that post MBA position, they're very similar in what the end result will be. And the reason why I believe a Army or military individual can be successful in that role. The leadership development program that I'll be doing will be a 3-year rotational program in which you ideally will be well versed in all different lines of Amazon's business. So then when you enter that senior realm, you understand what it takes to speak with the engineers who are diving into what that product is, speak to the customers, merge the two and facilitate that mutual conversation, or even venture outside of Amazon's walls and speak to all the different stakeholders. So that first role I'll take will be as a senior vendor manager. And the vendor manager route is interesting because it's one of the few lines of business and few actual career trajectories outside of that first job, outside the MBA and outside of the Army, in which you can own a P&L of a business unit and negotiate freely with manufacturers from overseas to the US to communicate what that value is for Amazon and for them. And so I think that's something that is a critical piece to building upon the foundation I gained in the Army and the MBA to then ideally continue progressing in business. And so excited to do that. And then it's a little bit of a choose your own adventure after that. And with the end goal, being able to understand each of those aspects that I mentioned before. I actually did not get the opportunity to work for Amazon when I was going through their hiring our heroes process, but was fortunate enough to recruit for that one more time in this route.
And so you said, is the hiring our heroes version of Amazon, is it the same kind of diversified view of the company? So if someone were exiting the military now and not necessarily leaning towards grad school, but wanted to interested in Amazon, they'd go to kind of the same route?
Absolutely. It'd be a similar type of program. I can't speak to exactly which level it would be. But I do know that would be the career program that they would enter into. It would be a multifunctional rotational program where they gain exposure and are able to build upon those foundational skills in the Army.
That's awesome. And Hunter, I'd love to hear about J&J experience for you.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. And I can talk about J&J's program specifically, but I'm always been a huge advocate of these military-focused leadership development programs in general. I made the decision transitioning out of the Army I was choosing between going to a full-time MBA program and a direct hire program like this LDP. Ultimately made the decision to pursue an LDP or direct hire because I felt like the biggest value prop in a full-time program, MBA program, was to be a strategy consultant or an investment banker. That's really where the most bang for your buck is. Andy is in a unique situation, super highly competent individual. That's why he's got this special LDP he's a part of right now. For me, I knew I wanted to balance some other work-life balance factors. So I knew either one of those careers weren't what I was interested in. And I really got drawn to this LDP format. So I didn't only apply to this one at J&J, but there's several other big Fortune 100 companies that have them like Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Citibank, Kaiser Permanente. The list goes on and on, but they're all rotational programs where you have the opportunity in the business to really test drive a couple different career paths and then ultimately make a more well-informed decision about what horse you want to hitch your cart to for the long term. But it also gives you an opportunity, and the value prop to the business is that they're bringing you in and giving you an opportunity to pick up on the technical competencies that you lack from, being a military service member for the last X number of years, but they're able to leverage the soft skills and the leadership development that you have from the military, that you're able to bring that diversity of thought and experience into their business. So it's really a win. And at least from my perspective, I've had a phenomenal experience. I've gotten to do a rotation in the business development group at J&J, which is the M&A arm of J&J, corporate strategy and M&A. And then I went to do a forward-facing U.S. commercial role on a marketing team as a product manager. And then my third rotation was on a supply chain team. And now my permanent placement is back with that M&A group. But it gave me a really well-rounded understanding of the business and ultimately feel like I was able to much more confidently choose what career path I want to go down as far as corporate America goes. So big advocate of them in general. I think they're an awesome transition tool.
Yeah, you've clearly done a ton of research on many other different, corporate veteran transition programs. What made you choose Johnson & Johnson over some of the other ones that I'm sure you had options for, and what went into that analysis?
Definitely. One reason and a big reason was geography. J&J, 90% of the business is located in the Northeast, which is where my wife and I are from. So we want to be close to family. And then I think the second biggest reason was that it's a company that's in the healthcare space. It's making products that affect people's lives in a material way and try to be a purpose-driven company. So it was easier for me to translate that from military service versus a company that's just focused on like financial services or manufacturing a different type of product that doesn't kind of fill that same need. So I was able to speak to that, and I think that's important as well. If you can find somewhere that you can attach yourself to like that.
Andy
Yeah, that
mentioned
makes a
his
lot of sense.
program's a 3-year one. How long was yours at J&J for the kind of rotational piece?
It's 18 months, so you get 3 6-month rotations. So basically 3 CSPs in a row.
Did either of you do I know, Andy, did you do a CSP, Hunter?
I was lined up to, but once I got this job, I dropped the CSP and took all my paternity leave.
Nice.
3 months in a row. It was great.
So
Okay.
could you, and we don't need to go too far down this rabbit hole, but could you guys speak to some of the nuances of these programs? Like how does yours, Hunter, differ from Andy's? I mean, I know it's half the length and maybe it's not quite as in depth at some of the, or maybe there's just more rotations in the Amazon one. Could you guys speak to those differences?
Yeah, I'll just start briefly and hand it over to Andy. Mine does not, a prerequisite is not to have an MBA. It's just to have served in the military for 4+ years as an NCO or officer. Final placement is at the same level as the post MBA LDPs that J&J holds also. So I think that just maybe speaks to how much weight and value J&J as a business puts to your military experience. But I'll hand it over to Andy.
That was perfect. I think the one other piece is with this post MBA route, they can spend a little bit more time developing in specific functions that require the MBA. And so one of them is going to be that product manager role. That would be the second rotation if you are choosing to pursue the route that they recommend, with the third coming back along. Now you've done the contract, then you can do the product manager, and finally you can round it out with the supply chain. Whereas in comparing that experience with Hunter, it seems that he's had to just focus a little bit more early on in what that is, where I can continue testing out what it is, as well as that end state of the Amazon program is to push you into a highly driven tech position. And so I think with this program, it's one of the few opportunities in which I will feel fully confident at that time that I'm ready to pursue that role when I do it.
Can you guys speak to the timing as far as the transition is concerned? Like, when did you first reach out to these programs? I mean, I'm sure you did plenty of research ahead of time, but when did you actually finalize this ahead of your actual transition? And did each of the programs kind of allow you to choose? I mean, I'm assuming the MBA, you had to start at a specific time, but these programs open to you starting any month of the year, or would it have to be timed well with your transition?
Almost all of them start in cohorts, which another plug for these types of LDPs is that you automatically come into whatever business you're a part of with a group of like-minded individuals who have just transitioned from service. So for me, we have people from the Navy, Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, all in our same cohort. And it's been extremely helpful through this process to like have that band of people who's figuring it out together, instead of just being this new person in this full-time role in a company where you don't know anyone. Just another quick plug for J&J's specifically, they hire one cohort a year. The hiring process normally starts in January, and then the program actually starts in July. As with anything else, I'm sure as you guys have talked with others about, networking is key, and the sooner you can start, the better. I started about a year out, like interacting with people, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, having as many conversations as people who had gone through any of these programs as possible, and went really deep on developing those relationships. And I can guarantee that there were many more people who applied to the program that were far more qualified than I was. But just based on the fact that I had built some relationship capital with the hiring manager and some of the advocates of the program who had gone before me, I'm fully confident that was the only reason that I was selected to actually participate. But yeah, the sooner the better. And I was able to, also super ideal timeline, not the expectation that it would work for everyone, but I was able to start the program for 2 months of my terminal leave. So getting double dipping on the Army and J for a couple months. Obviously that's not feasible for everyone, but if you can make that work, that's a great way to start your corporate or post-Army life.
It's so key to ask questions on your way out, because I had always heard 12 to 18 months is okay. And of course, coming out of the Ranger Regiment and thinking that I can do everything as quickly as possible to the best extent because I was surrounded by such elite individuals in that organization, I thought, okay, well, if anybody can do it in 12 to 18 months, I can probably do it in 6. And it was a very naive way of thinking, and is something that I'd highly encourage anybody who is just even considering another route, whether that's a LDP, a Hiring Our Heroes or CSP, or an MBA program, to just start asking questions to people that have done any, all, or none of those, and say, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And then that can start just pushing you in the right direction of what that roadmap could look like so that you meet those key timelines.
I think a lot of people are probably wondering, does this program, obviously it pays, Hunter mentioned double dipping. So does it pay like a normal Amazon or J&J salary, or how does it compensate you? And I assume that there's a bump once you graduate from the program.
Yeah. For J&J's, it pays like middle of the band for the manager level, which is what you are in the business, and it's part of the program. And then that's most likely the level that you'll place out of the program when it's finished as well. So yeah, you're a full-time salaried employee through the whole program, which is great.
And is there like an acceptance rate, or do like 100% of the people in the program generally move forward with the company, or how does that look?
As far as I know, there has never been anyone that has gone through the LDP that has not received a full-time placement. So I'd be pretty confident saying 100% placement rate.
That's awesome. It's not like you're going in as an intern that's, getting paid hourly or anything. You're getting, respectable salary right out the gate with this sort of program. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. And at least it works different everywhere, but at least for J&J, you're laddered up into corporate, into HR actually for the time that you're in the program. So like a CSP, you're free labor to whatever team you're going to work for 6 months. So anybody is willing to take you. So it's really a good program, I think.
Andy, similar stuff at Amazon with pay and kind of acceptance rate and all those?
Yeah, very similar. They'll always be competitive, but like any organization that is expecting a lot, and they're going to compensate very well. And one plug I'll give for Hunter's version of this route was that while I have done classes on how to do some of these things in business or done the internship, he's been living it day to day. So it has been very interesting to see the two different dynamics. And I can say with full confidence that you will be successful in either route, going the MBA route or doing the LDP route coming out of the military.
Or direct hire, just going to work somewhere or do your own thing, right? You'll be successful.
Or staying in the military.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was my change of command speech. We had a ton of soldiers in my unit that went on to do crazy things like regiment or special forces or commissioning or doing things. And in my change of command speech, I said, and some of them did the craziest thing, and they actually stayed Calf Scouts. But it's like sometimes that is the right call. Just staying in the military, it is the right call for a lot of people. And this, this podcast is by no means a way to say that the military is not the right option for anybody. It's a mouthpiece to try to communicate with the people who have chosen that they want to transition and move on, and try to give them the information. But another question I have too is just like when people are transitioning out, at least my experience, right? Your bosses on the officer side, your bosses are for sure retiring, most likely if they're lieutenant colonels or above. They may have never had to think about healthcare. They may never ever have to think about healthcare.
Yeah, probably not.
But I think one of the benefits of joining a bigger company like what you guys have pursued is that the healthcare option might be available for you, or at least it costs money for sure, but at least it's just very easy, very done for you. So did you guys research that ahead of time, or was that part of your decision as to joining a larger company?
Yeah, for me, for sure. And the more you dig into it, the more expensive it gets, I guess, the more you learn about it. But I think it's something that you should definitely bake into whatever salary you're projecting that you're going to make at whatever company. I think the average like out of pocket cap at most big corporates is around between like 7 and 10K. And yeah, that's accurate. Like that's what you can probably expect to pay almost every year. And you should just take that right off the top line of your salary, but yeah, TRICARE is awesome. First baby, I think we got the hospital bill was going to be like 85 grand or something. It was like what you owe $3 or something like that. this year is not going to be the same way.
Yeah, the big corporations have incredible benefits, both from the tech side and then seeing the consulting one this past summer. So those are definitely good industries to pursue. I will also vouch for the VA benefits. I've been fully on the VA healthcare system while I've been here at Wharton and have denied the schooling healthcare. And at first, some people thought that they may have not been the correct route, but I fully believe now that if you buy into the transition roadmap and are actually taking advantage of what you can do in those 12 months prior, pursue the before discharge, the BDD claim, and actually document some of your experiences in the military, then you can set your family up for success regardless of what industry you're going into, whether it's a big corporation or even a blue collar development program. The Army and the military still can be there and provide great benefits, whether that's emergency room care, dental, or anything else you need, primary care. I think it gets a bad rap for prior bad experiences, but I think the VA is doing a great job now. And then the onus is now on the soldier to do the research, talk to the people, and take advantage of those benefits.
Yeah. And Jack, to your point, I think maybe what the direction you're going is that I think, big corporate and 9 to 5 gets a bad rap, although I think culturally it's actually going through a resurgence right now. But I think it can be for anyone transitioning that maybe has some entrepreneurial inklings or passions that they might want to get into that aren't fully developed. There's a pretty proven template for track record and how to succeed in this type of environment. And anyone transitioning out of the military with some leadership experience is well prepared to excel in these types of roles. And it absolutely gives you the opportunity and headspace and ability to balance work and life and to be able to pursue things in parallel with it, which is what Andy and I are experiencing right now. So that's what I'd say. It gives you that stability, a certain level of stability, not as much stability as the military, I will say. There's restructurings in every company every year, but it gives you a certain level of predictability so that you can continue to focus on other things as well while still crushing your day job.
Yeah, I imagine you guys don't have many super free weekends or a lot of free evenings, but I mean, it has afforded both of you the ability to go to grad school, whether it's online or in person, work at a major corporation like the two that you're both at, and also start a company or start your own sort of initiative too. So I'd love to transition to Tip the Scales, the stuff that you guys are working on together.
Yeah. Andy, do you want to go first?
Yeah, definitely. So Tip the Scales launched this summer, and our idea with Tip the Scales was to be the go-to mentorship platform for any individuals navigating a pivotal transition in their life. So that can be the military veteran stepping into civilian life that you mentioned, or we can extend that to a young professional advancing in their career who's interested in either that career change or what the next function could be as they're rotating through. And Hunter had to interview with different departments as he was looking for that next role. And then finally, even just someone pursuing personal growth. And so we wanted to create a place that fostered that communication and two-way buy-in, a community that could connect high performing individuals in a multitude of industries, and specifically beginning with that military, that transition, and then connect them with the mentee. And I think that two-way buy-in is something we're very proud of and something we want to continue having as we grow, because there's no other place where the mentee wants to be there and the mentor is also completely there for that experience. So currently what Tip the Scales offers is threefold. First is mentorship. Second is professional development. And third is going to be personal development. On the mentorship side, currently we're focusing on military, MBA, and corporate. We've got 45 active mentors that are there. You can see them on the website at tipthescales.co and choose who you're looking to talk to. And they'll be there within a 24-hour response and setting up a time to talk to you within 1 week. On the professional development side, currently we're looking at different interview techniques and resume feedback regardless of industry. And then on the personal development side, this one came about because as Hunter and I started looking at what we could do, what was our purpose, what fulfilled us, what made us happy on the professional and the personal side, one of the things that always rang home was our love for fitness and running. And so we wanted to provide that same opportunity to grow personally. And just a final piece here, I think one other thing that distinguishes us is that all the mentors have a proven track record of success in their own personal, professional lives, but also in mentorship. And so that's something that excites me, is being able to provide this platform in which someone can go back to asking questions. Someone can just go and ask a single question or a multitude of questions, and they can feel confident that that is a shared space that's safe. There's no repercussions that are happening inside of your chain of command or inside of a place at work. And this can lead to known successful dialogues and support as they pursue whatever that next venture is. Did I miss anything there, Hunter?
Yeah, I think I'd just add the idea came from Andy and I shared transition experience. We both were getting out at the same time, navigating it at the same time, even though we ultimately went different directions for different reasons. But as you both know, navigating your transition as well, there's 1,000 different transition organizations out there that are kind of in violation of marketing 101, or are trying to do everything all at once. So as a result, they don't really do anything well. So what Andy and I kind of wanted to focus on was this niche of individuals who I guess you could categorize as the high performing type that's looking for a specific thing out of their transition experience. And we wanted to provide them with a platform where they could connect with like-minded individuals who were looking for similar things, and with mentors who were vetted with, as Andy mentioned, a proven track record of success. I think the closest parallel you could draw to the mentorship part of the platform would probably be Vetterati, which, as you guys might be aware, just recently shuttered its doors. I think they were having a few different issues, but interacting with the platform myself, I connected with, probably a dozen different individuals or mentors on that site. And one of the issues that they had was that there was no prerequisite to sign up to be a mentor. And then there was also no vetting process to confirm the credentials or the access to information that you said that you had on that site as well. So I think that's part of the differentiated value prop that we're trying to provide, and super excited about what the future might hold for it.
I was going to mention, you guys ran a very successful PsyOps campaign. As soon as Vetterati closed, you guys happened to open. I was like, man, well done.
Yeah, no coincidence.
Not correlated at all. That's great. I love what you guys are doing. It sounds like a large part of it is vetting the mentors to make sure there's really high quality on the other end, so that those that are coming into it are receiving the absolute best help, advice, mentorship along the way.
Absolutely. And you're surrounded by incredible innovators and high achievers inside of the Army and other services. And so that's what we wanted to hold over, that no matter who you talk to, you know that you are going to achieve that same standard of conversation, of personal attention to detail. And they are going to help you and be there for you as you take that same level of success you saw in the military into that personal endeavor.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's very needed too, because we've mentioned something actually multiple times on this podcast, is the idea of mentorship. Oftentimes it's the mentee asking the mentor. Like, no one's going to come to you and say, like, let me mentor you. But in this case, you've at least established the platform where you've got mentors that are willing to answer that call. So, can you walk me through the process? Like, if you're going on there, and like, is it like searchable by person? You do a little bit more of your research, or are they categorized by type, or how does that work?
Yeah, Jack, all of the above. And on the first note of looking for a mentor, one other piece we realized that it can be intimidating to reach out and ask those questions and ask for help. So even when I go on LinkedIn now to look for a coffee chat or search that business, that's still scary. I don't know if they're going to respond. I don't know if they're going to ask somebody because it says you have 3 mutual friends or followers, what that is. And so it creates a contested environment from the get-go of what that conversation could be. And so that's something we want to do, was put the mentors on the screen. You could go right now and just see all 45, either by topic, whether that's MBA, corporate, or military. And then within that specific, you can search by specific military, whether that's Army, Air Force, and so on. And put the ball back in the mentee's court and give them the power to immediately set up that learning environment. And so the way this would look would be an individual would reach out and request a mentor or coach, And we would immediately, within those 24 hours, gather whatever that essential info is and tailor the matching process. Ideally, you get that person that you're looking for. And so that's you requesting that specific mentor. Ultimately, if there's someone that could be an adjacent match, we'll suggest that. It's not an automatic assignment like Hunter had talked about with some of his prior experiences, but it's a suggestion or a recommendation. So we'll figure out who that's going to be. Also within that 24 hours, we'll establish the connection. So that mentor is going to reach out. And then our goal is that within 1 week, we have this 1 week guarantee, you'll create a positive link up. So that mentor within that week, pending schedules aligning, will then start providing that personalized guidance and actionable strategies to foster whatever that growth is. And then I think the final piece is that it doesn't just end in one conversation. And so there's some great sites out there that are providing a one-to-one match, but it ends after there's 30 minutes or we both got something out of it. And so it's a very transactional process. But what we want to provide is that you now have an ongoing relationship, whether that's with that other person or with someone else, and we can conduct follow-ups. And so we're assessing the progress, ensuring that there's concerns or follow-up conversations, if that's someone else, are met, and ideally provide that continuous loop. Anything else on that, Hunter?
No, I think you got it.
Yeah, we've said multiple times too, as an advice to the person looking for a mentor out in and it's like, no, you're not getting paid for providing mentorship, right? Most of these people are just doing it because they want to. But the best way to pay back that mentor is to do that follow up. It's to say, hey, here's the guidance you gave me. Here's the steps I took because of that guidance, and here's what the result was. And that's going to be the best way that a mentor can actually get paid back for his or her time to be involved with that mentee. It's okay, what I said actually led to something. That's going to be the best way that you're going to get that mentor to come back and to keep investing time and effort into you, as to provide that feedback. So it's great that you guys are focusing on like enabling the second step as well, like the follow-up. That's great.
Yeah, 100%.
And what else on the physical side? I see you've got like strength and conditioning programs, coaches and stuff. So what does that side look like?
I don't know if you guys are qualified. You know, I hear a lot of speed talk. I think maybe.
I've never seen Andy throw some iron around, but I can say Hunter is surprisingly strong for his speed as well. So qualification checked in my mind.
Yeah, I was on my time at West Point. As everyone knows, you have to do an intramural or some kind of activity. I was on the strength and conditioning team there. So I coached the men's lacrosse and hockey team. So full of surprises.
That's awesome.
I was just in the gym right before this podcast too, since we were going cameras on. And I think I'm filling out this nicely.
Andy wore the medium so he could fill it out well.
Right.
Thanks for noticing, Griffin.
Yeah.
On a serious note, though, the coaches on there do hold at least 3 different certifications. So we do promise that there won't be any misguidance or put you in a position that's not going to set you up for success. And if we can't do, I promise that we'll find the person that can.
Well, that's awesome. I'm curious what's on the horizon physically for both of you. I mean, you have so much time with baby on the way, MBA programs, leadership development programs. It's not like you guys are doing a whole lot, but what's the is there an Ultraman in 2025 as well?
That time in the morning from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. remains sacred every single day, regardless of what else is going on. The house could be on fire, but I'm still gonna get in the gym. For me, I'm just recovering, probably supporting Andy with whatever he does. I just paced him through 100K, or not paced him, supported him, cheered him on through 100K a couple months ago. And Andy, what is on your agenda? I don't know. We probably need to talk about this.
My wife is concerningly asking me every day as well. But I could confidently say I wouldn't have completed that 100K without Hunter and the team. We do have a goal, both Hunter and I, of going to compete in the UTM, the Ultra Trail Mont Blanc race in Chamonix, France, which is a 100-mile race around Mont Blanc and crosses through all the bordering countries around that mountain. In order to do that, you have to compete in at least one race. So once Hunter finally decides to stop being injured, he'll get his qualification. But I was able to qualify, and I'm thinking now we start honing some of those muscles and learn how to do it better. This was a an eye-opening experience doing this first 100K trail race and having hills on my course instead of just a flat road race. But may do another 100K this spring. I'll let you know.
Yeah, for context, the last ultramarathon that Andy and I did together was a self-supported ultramarathon where we attempted to run for 24 hours in a row around, I think it was a 1.12 mile loop.
Oh,
I think we made it like 15 or 16 hours or something, covering 100K distance. And then Andy decided to get a stress fracture. So we had to stop. But
I thought you were going to say until you both went clinically insane at the short course.
no, we were having a great time. We ran all night.
Hunter was having a great time. I had 3 stress fractures and it was right before deployment. So people were not happy with that.
Yeah, the clinical insanity came before choosing to do that rate.
We did feed the 3rd Ranger Battalion counterparts that chose to do the David Goggins challenge. And ultimately that was the secondary goal, was to ensure that we went further, which we did.
Yeah, that was the impetus for it, right? Was we thought that was too easy, right? Was the, what is it, like 4 miles, 4 hours or something like that for 24 hours? I don't know.
Well, you can't do a David Goggins challenge or anything even similar to it without having like kidney failure or like several stress fractures or whatever. That's kind of, I mean, isn't that the goal of anything David Goggins does? See how much I can break myself.
Right.
Yeah, I think so.
We got close to it, but getting better every day, Griffin.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of running, Hunter and Andy both, I have this in the frame for those that are listening. It's the endorphin running belt, which
make sure if you're listening, you go watch this so you see the sick logo.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. It's completely seriously, it is amazing. It's an awesome running belt. Talk to me, Hunter and Andy, about kind of what went into making this thing. I mean, for one, it seems like an engineering feat just to be able to do what it does so minimally, but tell me more about that process and where that's going.
Yeah, the endorphin running belt has been a brainchild of mine for about the last 1.5 to 2 years, and really stemmed from my own need of wanting to, simple thing I wanted was just to have a running belt that wasn't super cumbersome or ugly, that I could carry my phone in a waterproof compartment, and then a water bottle or a soft flask. And shockingly, you go look around, you won't find one that does that well. I tested a ton of different running belts, dozens of running belts. Really, the only solution for that currently is like, you just got to wear a vest, which you don't want to do for your 8-mile easy run. But I'm a pretty sweaty guy, so I like always find myself needing to carry water. So I have a good friend who runs a couple of successful e-commerce companies. Shout out to the Nordstick, Garrett, if you're listening. And he hooked me up with some of his relationships, and we were able to start iterating on this concept. And yeah, pretty much over like, I don't know how many versions of the belt we went through, over a dozen, but eventually landed on the design that you were holding, Griffin, and specifically what it's for. It's a precise instrument of speed and lethality designed to carry a specific amount of items and help you, crush your running goals, catch endorphins.
Let me give you a quick commercial plug. So have you ever been running and you had to carry a water bottle and a phone, but had nowhere to put it? You were so annoyed because it was taking up both your hands. You kept dropping your phone. You scratched your phone. You broke your screen, whatever. Or you had this heavy water bottle just sloshing around. Well, imagine if you could have both of those and goos for when you get to mile 10, tucked away neatly along your belt line, not bouncing, stored away, waterproofed, all of these things right at your waist at any given time. So when you run 100K and you're passing Andy at the finish line, you can access all of them. Just imagine that. And that's what Hunter has created here. It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. And one of the key design features of it is the dual adjustment points on either side, which is the engineering marvel part of it, is because it was extremely meticulous to put them exactly in the right spot where you can put the water bottle or phone on one side of your body and the other heavy item directly on the other side of your body, so that they sit perfectly on the flat parts of your torso so that they don't bounce. And then also selecting like a material that had just the right amount of tension so that you could really, whenever you lock it down in whatever position it's going to be in, it's not going to go anywhere. But yeah, I think it's probably the best lightweight running belt out there. Perfect for, probably anything up to and including a half marathon. And I've gotten a lot of great feedback on it from people who have even used it up to like the marathon distance too. So excited about the future of it. It's good timing to have this podcast now because we just launched it within 30 days and it's been doing pretty well so far. So really excited about what's ahead. People seem to really like it. So the e-com space is funny. it's not as tried and true as I know you guys have talked about real estate in the past. There's not quite as a clean template of what success might look like. The barrier to entry is probably a little bit lower, but it's definitely a higher risk endeavor with a much higher possibility for you to lose all of your money. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend that people like just jump into this kind of business unless you have like a key strategic advisor like Andy and I do with my friend Garrett. But yeah, Andy has been along the journey the entire time, helping me test prototypes. And obviously we've been running friends for forever. So we've been bouncing ideas with each other back and forth about it. And I think we're both excited to help it grow.
Well, if you're also check out our YouTube channel. If you're not on YouTube right now watching this, check out Endorphin Running Co. because you might see Hunter with a shirt off displaying this product, and maybe Andy as well. So
almost guaranteed.
I without being too nosy, or feel free to plead the fifth on these, but what does it take, like initial investment kind of thing, to start this sort of company? How do you find, and that can be first question, but I'm also curious I know you have an advisor who connected you with the right suppliers and things, but I imagine just in your basement, putting a belt together that creating the initial MVP of this thing, or, kind of prototype. How do you even get started finding the right material and all that? I mean, it's just it's hard to go from 0 to 1 with this sort of thing.
Yeah, it is really complicated. And like I said, there's no specific method for success. If you're trying to start something generic, you can find success in finding like a custom supplier on somewhere like Alibaba or somewhere similar and then for a premium, would be willing to create a custom type of material for you. I think anybody who is trying to get started in something like this should be prepared to take a big amount of risk in your initial minimum order quantity required, and probably be looking at an initial investment of like, at least 30K, probably more like 50K to start, just to get your foot in the door, to get something in a box at your doorstep. That's probably going to be in the realm of like 1,000 to 2,000 items. And so you better make sure that the product that you're presenting at that time, you have a high probability of success with, because if not, then you're stuck with all this inventory that you have nothing to do with, And then that's also not baking in all the extra like admin fees required to like build out the front end of the business, like the website and all the other things like Shopify and things like that. So I would say if somebody was looking to get started in something like this, or creating their product, I would just say to control everything that you can and keep everything as simple as physically possible from the start, and make sure that you're passionate about the product that you're creating and that you feel like it's meeting a real need. Otherwise, it's just going to become too cumbersome to carry forward, and you're just going to want to drop it at the first opportunity, I think. But it is exciting, and it's definitely taken a lot of work to get to this point, but it's cool to see it materialize a little bit. Yeah.
What is free too, though, is documenting things on just a Google Drive. And so all those iterations and all those unique features that this belt now that you're seeing has would not be possible unless you wrote down, here's the praise and here's all the failures and here's how to move forward on that. And so an example would be that bounce you were talking about could ruin your run in 30 seconds. You could go out for a 2-mile run. It doesn't have to be 100K, but unless you document that feature, you're not going to do it. And so that's something that Hunter was great at, and something that you can start right now is by answering those questions of what's a problem I have and how can I fix it?
Did I miss anything in that explanation? I don't know. I felt like I left a few gaps.
No, I think it makes complete sense. I'm curious. So you basically found a custom supplier on Alibaba or a similar type website. You went back and forth with them, designing something that you probably took pieces from other running belts or vests out there and tried to combine, jerry rig those into something that kind of fit what you were looking for. And then you had to order 1,000 or 2,000 units to your house of something that you had never touched or seen before, and hope that was like within the realm of possibility. And that one probably is still going to need a lot of work. And that is kind of correct?
That's 100% correct. Yeah. I bought I think it was 4 or 5 different running belts that all had different features that I liked, pointed them out, made a PowerPoint presentation about how I wanted it put together, sent them all to this individual. And then, over the next year.
Who probably didn't speak English as his first language.
Fortunately, he does.
Okay, good.
I don't know if it's his first language, but yeah. And then work over the series of several months to get to the product that, it's still not perfect, to your point. There's we're already working on the next version now, and there's like some clear things that need to be improved. And I'll make sure Griffin and Jack, you guys get a free version of it to test it out for us. But yeah, that's why I mentioned, at the start, there's a high propensity for failure, and it's definitely a high risk endeavor, but it's also pretty exhilarating to see something that came out of my brain. People are willing to pay, $39 for it right now.
Yeah, it's on sale, by the way.
Yeah, on sale right now.
All right, so you got those couple thousand first units, and that's this one? That's this current version?
That one. Yeah, that's version 1.
There was a version before this, or this is the first version that you've actually touched?
This is the first commercial version, yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that PowerPoint is probably going to be famous one day. These are the iterations and the lessons learned building the next great running belt, or the great running belt, because there isn't a current one.
I don't know. We'll see.
You're talking yourself into a job here, though, Griff. You're doing a great job.
So version 2 is going to be another couple thousand units, right? Once you have enough customer feedback and things on this first version, then you go through that whole process again. Obviously, you found your supplier. Hopefully, they're amenable to a second round, and everything is still lined up. So that's kind of the iteration process, and hopefully you can move those units and keep on building momentum from there.
Yeah, 100%. That's the hope. I mean, a lot of friends and family buying some belts to start. Also, a ton of complete strangers. So hopefully we can keep up the momentum and keep things rolling. But yeah, to your point, more business for me is more business for them. And that will, the more that I buy, the more that our relationship will continue to strengthen. So I think things are looking positive from that perspective. It's really just to get your foot in the door there is difficult, and then align with someone who's willing to take the risk on you to spend the man hours to develop something as well.
Well, it also helps from a purpose perspective if it's scratching your own itch. I mean, Hunter and Andy were looking for exactly what they built, so that really helps. I mean, even if you end up losing at the end of the day financially, you're like, well, we've got a freaking good running belt that's going to pay dividends for years. So.
Yeah, we have lifetime supply of running belts. That is 100% true.
Yeah, your garage is full.
Yeah, that's why I have the blur on. It's just because we're in my office, but also my warehouse. So we just have boxes of running belts and packing supplies behind me right now.
What's the website to buy one?
It is endorphinrunningco.com.
Nice.
Or on social media at Endorphin Running Co. Yeah, check us out.
Nice. I'm definitely gonna pick one up. That's
awesome. Well, I think
get me back into some running.
Heck yeah, that's what we need.
I will say it's a great forcing function. You have the belt, then you have to go run. I mean, it feels so good when you're wearing it. It forces you out onto the road to go run. Griffin. So the motion is in the buying of the belt, and then it puts you in motion with the running. It's like a inverse relationship. But I think an incredible lesson here that you just had to need something that was, a problem for you, and you just started taking one step after another to fix it, which is exactly what we've all done in the military from the beginning. And I think what really sets veterans apart is the ability to see a problem that maybe doesn't have a conventional solution and find, just figure out a way to solve it and make something happen. So that's awesome. And hopefully encouragement to anyone listening to this, just take a step to start solving that problem. If you see something, just start putting it into action. Hunter, it didn't look like a belt after day one. It probably looked like a bunch of PowerPoint scribbles that we all are, well-versed in anyways. And then it resulted in an amazing product that people are holding and using in their hands. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And for something like that, I think maybe a good analogy would be like dating or finding your wife. People always say like, whenever you're looking for it is when you'll never find it. So I think probably don't try to like force something like this to happen. But if something pops into your head like that, or you feel like there's a real need that you could solve, like that's the right time to pursue something like this. I don't think it's something that you can force though. No. And maybe on just to your point, Griffin, about translating it back to the military, and maybe like one of my closing thoughts too, is that like for everybody out there who may be in the military or transitioning or wherever you are, like, more than you think and you're more capable than you think you are. But on the flip side of the coin, realize that out here, outside of the military, it's also ruthlessly competitive, and nobody is going to prevent you from failing the same way that your leaders do in the military. So you got to look out for each other, and all the more reason to build a strong network. But you're capable of achieving great things outside of the Army too, Navy, Coast Guard, wherever you served.
Mostly the Army, but thanks for that. One 2-part question that we ask every guest on here is one ask and one give. So the first part, we can start with you, Hunter. One, ask one way that people can provide value or help you. And you've already mentioned several things, but it can be a repeat of something that we've already talked about or whatever comes to your mind.
Yeah, I think ask if anybody knows a great US-based textile manufacturer. I would love to get in touch with that person. And then probably a similar give to what Andy might mention, but is just give us the opportunity to serve you through our Tip the Scales platform. We would love to be able to pay it forward. That's a super rewarding experience, as Jack kind of mentioned, for people who are in a position of mentorship to give back and share their experiences. So that's what I'd like to give.
2 quick clarifying questions. Tip the Scales, completely free for mentees, right? Like they can just go on there, find a great mentor, cost them
100%.
nothing except.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
And the second question, just for someone who's listening to this and like, oh, wait, I actually know a textile manufacturer in the States. What specifically are you looking for in case there's like crazy serendipity here?
I want to make the running belt in the USA eventually. So that's somebody who can manufacture plastics, nylons, polyurethanes, those types of things.
Okay, there we go. I'm looking for specs. Like what kind of textile manufacturer would be a helpful one? That makes sense.
When did you learn the word polyurethane, Hunter?
I don't know, a couple days ago, probably.
Executive MBA, baby.
Yeah, thanks, Griffin and Jack, for doing this. This has been amazing. Our ask here, back to Tip the Scales, we want to connect people with like-minded winners. So in building this site, we have our strategic advisor, General Farrader, who served 35 years in the military, to include years in the 75th Ranger Regiment. And in what he did at the Veterans Memorial and Museum, there are amazing resources out there, from just translating your military experience to civilian credit through getting graduate degrees or just connections. That's what we want to do. And we recognize that this generation of veterans will be the next greatest generation. They served in the war for 20 years. They volunteered, like you said, Jack. They're helpers and ultimately selfless connectors. And so what we want to do here is help these veterans lead the United States into what we believe the future can be, continue that innovation that we saw from the 18-year-old machine gunners all the way to 35-year-old and up platoon sergeants still operating on the line because they love it and they want to be great leaders pursuing their passions. That's what we want to continue offering. And so the ask is that if you are able to provide any sort of advice at that high level and can help someone, even if it's just one person, in getting them to the next step, please reach out so that you can end up being a mentor on our site. Or if you know an organization that would love to partner with a venture like this, that can also help. And then to give, like Hunter said, we want to provide anything we can to help one person. If we can do that, then we're slowly changing the world one person at a time. And if that person then shares that advice, then we're getting closer to what we believe we can achieve. But overall, there's incredible people in the United States Army and other services, like Hunter said. And so we just want to continue building off that momentum that they start.
Yeah, some hard feelings from Army Navy. That was rough, but we'll recover.
We're all still recovering.
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny, that rivalry. You know, you can have an incredible year and still lose Army Navy, and there's been times when Army has been a crap team and we've still beat Navy. But it is, the rivalry is what it is, so that's why.
Yeah, it keeps the fire alive. It was definitely an upset, so it makes it all the more exciting to come back next year, right?
Yeah.
The best part is Air Force is just not even in the conversation. So
yeah, maybe they'll get there. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Unfortunately, my time at West Point, there was the 4 full years where we did not beat Army or Air Force.
Same, or Navy, right? You mean?
Oh yeah, we did not beat Navy or Air Force the full 4 years I was there.
No Air Force either. I think I graduated in 2016. We had 1 Air Force win and no Navy wins, just miserably standing in the cold for hours, all 4 years. Yep. Depressing. Yep. Maybe that's probably why I've never gone back yet, but it's something I want to get to.
Andy, you're not allowed to talk about college football. I just want to stop you there.
We didn't win a national championship while I was there either. It was tough.
Hey, I'm generally an SEC hater, but the fact that you guys pulled it out and didn't let a non-SEC team win the SEC, that was pretty huge. I was because that happened in the Big Ten, and it might happen in basketball too. Oregon looks pretty good basketball wise, but I was thinking that Texas was going to come in and win the SEC, and I'm actually kind of glad that like an actual SEC team won the SEC. So
I agree with you, Jack. And because of that, I haven't sat down in the second half of most games this season. So I'm hoping for a few more wins.
Yeah, I'm just excited for them to lose in the first playoff game. So
I'll get you a jersey to wear on the next podcast.
No, you guys are obviously matching. You got the Steve Jobs thing going on right now. So I like the vibe.
It was unintentional, but then I realized as I was walking up the stairs that I was wearing a black t-shirt. And if you guys haven't noticed, Griffin wears a black t-shirt every single episode. So
yeah, I mean, it's consistent. It's easy. It looks good. I wouldn't change it,
you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jack loves to give me a hard time for it. And as soon as I saw him step up to the plate here today with a black t-shirt, I knew he was ready for business. So
I hope you did the Raleigh joke, because I did not hear a Raleigh joke today.
No, we need a break from it. It'll be
going
back
away
though.
from the Raleigh jokes.
What's the Raleigh joke?
Best city in America, baby. Everyone's moving to Raleigh.
I've never been. I heard it was New Jersey, but
definitely not New Jersey.
Resurgence in New Jersey.
No one even needs to dispute that because it's just so blatantly false.
Yeah, well, I'm stuck here right now, so I just try to say nice things about it.
Well, gents, this has been fantastic. The fact that both of you are successfully juggling, a corporate leader development program, MBA programs of varying degrees, starting a company, building a physical all of these things. Most people we talk to are doing one of these 4 or so things, yet you guys are doing all of them at once. So very impressive what you guys are both working on. And thanks for taking the time to have this conversation. We'd love to just part with any final thoughts you might have for a transitioning service member or somebody that's considering going through the transition. Kick it to you, Hunter.
Yeah, I know I left one little nugget a little bit earlier, but I'd also say, just lean into what made you successful in the military, and the fact that as a leader in the military, you've always been leading and learning at the same time. And you've always been in a position to be the decision maker in a room with people who know more than you. So just when you do get out, if you decide to get out, just lean into that diversified military value proposition that you have. People value it more than you think you do. And I think everybody can bring more value than they think that they know.
I agree with that. My first platoon sergeant told me the only way to fail was to not listen and to compromise myself, whether that's morals or values. And ultimately, I'm going to do what's right. If I ask for feedback, gain the buy-in, listen to him, Sergeant Perez, and then you'll always make the right decision. And so I'm confident that everyone, if they follow that or whatever their platoon sergeant says and senior NCOs, they'll be all right.
Absolutely. Spoken like a very seasoned officer.
Yes. And the 21-year-old Harvard undergrads just running me into the ground this summer in Excel models too.
Hey, they can model all day because ChatGPT will do that as well, but they can't talk to somebody. So I'll take the latter.
Absolutely. Good point. Good point.
Great.
Yeah. Well, this has been awesome, guys. Thanks for hopping on here, and go Army.
Go Army. Thank you both. This is awesome to talk to you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Veteran Ventures podcast. If you heard something interesting or found the show to be helpful, send it to a friend who is transitioning out of the military or considering a transition. We'd also really appreciate if you left a rating and review of the show. That helps us reach more people with these amazing stories of successful veterans. We'll catch you next time on the Veteran Ventures podcast. And until then, go do the thing. Make that decision, have that conversation, and go find your next mission.